Once upon a time, one night a guy was panting next to a tree surrounded by spirits that kept calling him king, causing irritation in the guy who ordered them to shut up. The guy is known as the Spirit Emperor, Chen Fanyu. The emperor was apparently sick and everything pointed to his death that day. However, while he was giving his last breaths, a kind of portal appears before his eyes. The protagonist, confused, does not know what it is, but he decides to take the risk and enters it, praying that at least he can be reborn in another world. Upon entering, his body is transported as in a kind of bifrost, arriving on Earth, more precisely to a high school in a kind of history class about an ancient dynasty. Then we see that our protagonist took possession of a body of a boy, although this leaves him confused, as he has no idea where he is. Though it doesn't take him long to guess that he has just been reincarnated, confirming the funerary myths, though he was expecting to be reincarnated as a god, so he is frustrated by where he was reincarnated. Once the class is over, a girl named Muzuer invites the protagonist to leave together, calling the prota by his name as a human, which is Kin Chuan, so it seems that they have a relationship, which bothers several boys. So the girl tells the prota that she will have a party for his birthday the next day at 8 o'clock, and asks him not to forget to go, so the prota coldly accepts, a feeling that Zuer managed to notice and got annoyed by it. After this, the friend questions her to continue with the prota when she has better options, but the girl mentions that she is only with him because she lost a bet. That day in the afternoon, the prota managed to find a spot in a park which he starts to cultivate, explaining the power or cultivation system of this world, which is divided into 8, which are Kai condensation, golden core, spiritual transformation, nascent soul, null return, Tao fusion, great ascension, and transcendent tribulation, which are divided into 3 subparts. After reaching his initial stage, the protagonist intended to return home before it rains, but at that an old man who also practices cultivation appears. But the prota stops him when he sees that he was injured, surprising the old man, and when he wanted to help him, the guy who was with the old man stops him, but the prota attacks him lightly. The old man asks him if he has been practicing. Although he looks at him with admiration for feeling his strength, the protagonist acknowledges that currently the old man is much stronger than him. But because of the damage to the old man's meridians will cause severe pain in the old man, so the old man is surprised because the prota's diagnosis is quite accurate. The protagonist then mentions that he will recommend herbal prescriptions. It is in that way that the old man recognizes that the prota is a true master. So the prota tells him that he will improve his current medicines, as well as give him a new prescription, words that amaze the old man and gives him hope. So the old man orders his man to write down what the prota has to say, although the prota thinks he is lying, but the old man forces him to write it down. Then the old man asks the prota for his name. But when the prota tells him, the old man finds it strange because there is no one in town with a last name like that. The protagonist writes down the recipe and tells him to contact him, but seeing that he was leaving and seeing that it was already late, the old man asks him if he wants a ride, to which the prota accepts. But then the old man's man asks him if he knows the prota, and how can he believe in an unknown man? At his man's question, the old man tells him that 10 years ago there was someone like him, and then mentions to him that there are things hidden in places where there may seem to be nothing. At the prota's house, one of his sisters is anxious about him, while the other one tells him that she is all grown up. So when the prota enters the house, his scared sister gives him a tight hug, while the other one went to bed. The shy prota apologizes and mentions that he was just walking around, so he tells his sister Yu to go to sleep. Upon entering the room, the prota tells us a bit of the story of the boy he was reincarnated into, that his mother was a successful businesswoman and his father was a mobster, but they had abandoned him with Yu. But his parents were killed, so the prota has the desire to take revenge, as now he reincarnated as his son. The next morning the prota wakes up, and although he knows that his current level is higher than his body can withstand, but he managed to overcome the first layer. After that, the prota enters the bathroom with his chest exposed, where his sister was. Taking her by surprise, he asks her to come out. After that, in the reception of the building where the prota resides, a man of the old man informs him that the preparation of the herbs for the medicine has already been carried out, so the prota is taken to the old man's house. While he was in the car, he discovered the identities of the old man and the guy who was with him the day before, and it seems that the old man is the ruler of a province, as well as having a high status. Once the protagonist in the village, he is greeted by the old man, and the prota asks for the preparation of the herbs. The old man gives them to him. So the prota asks him to take him to a room, and once in the room, the prota starts to perform cultivation to create the medicine. So after that, the protagonist takes the medicine to the old man. Then the old man, impressed, is gullible because it was very fast. The prota asks him if he has doubts, to which the old man says no. He was admiring the way he did it so fast. But at that moment the old man's granddaughter arrives, questioning that he trusts a man he doesn't even know, taking the medicine thinking of throwing it away. To which the old man stops her and asks her what she is doing, so the girl labels the Proto a swindler. Before such an accusation, the Proto asks her if she can prove it. The confident girl tells him that her grandfather told her that he is a martial arts master who is too strong, so she wants to test him, and challenges him, saying that if he beats her, then she will trust him, but if she beats him, then he must leave. The protagonist accepts, and the girl then starts levitating and concentrating, saying that she wants to see how he deals with her attacks. The girl then attacks the Proto, but the Proto very easily parries the attack with utmost ease, but the girl is surprised, feeling that her hand is like steel. To which the Proto teases and asks her if that is the only skill she can do. Then the girl tells the Proto to attack her if he can. Then the protagonist taunts that he will only need one finger to defeat her, so the old man tells the girl to be careful, so the Proto touches his finger to the girl's chest, indirectly touching her heart, generating a sort of heart attack. The girl collapses, and the old man and one of his guards are astonished at what has just happened, followed by the Proto asking her if she believes in him. However, the old man interferes and asks him to forgive her, surprised by the show of power that the Proto just did, because even for him to stop her is complicated, considering that in front of him many practitioners would be as nothing or as simple novices, since he considers him one master. Then the girl is helped to get up and tells him with reverence that she will serve him. Then the protagonist asks again if they trust him already. The old man says yes and drinks the medicine that the Proto made for him. After that he asks her to sit down and proceeds to do his cultivation and cure the old man, impressing the old man, because he cured much more than his illness, so he tells him that he will never forget what he has done for him. So the Proto recommends him to rest so he can heal completely, besides telling him that his cultivation is incomplete. So he promises to help him next time, to which the old man tells him that whatever he asks for he will give him. Then the Proto asks him to comment on how is the division of the current cultivation in the world. The old man comments to him, making the Proto worry about being at an intermediate level, so he decides to leave that place. Then the old man tells his man that he is that dragon hiding in a small lake. Once the Proto leaves, the old man tells his man that the Mo family's industry and the village they are currently in will become part of the Proto. Past this, the Proto was farming in some sort of lake, and a man with a lot of hustle is looking for him, and upon finding him hands him a document where he is given the deed to the villa along with the keys to the villa, plus the procedures that the industry must go through. The protagonist looks at him coldly out of the corner of his eye and tells him to take him to see her. Then the Proto is later taken to Ju Yungshua's company, where a red-haired girl complains that the Mo ceded control of the industry to someone else. But the guy, who is seen to be the typical bad guy that the Proto will humiliate, tells him not to worry, because the Proto is just a simple boy. At that, a bald guy enters who informs the guy who was with the girls that the old man has just arrived, and along with him came a young man. The guy then exasperatedly commands him to bring them to that place, but at that the Proto enters and says that it is no longer necessary because he is already there. So the guy then asks him if he is the new boss. The Proto then asks him if he is the one who was managing the industry, so the guy reluctantly asks him if he has any objection, because he won't let him take over the industry, to which the Proto tells him that he doesn't care about that, because what he needs is a dog to manage the industry. Then the annoyed bald guy throws himself on the Proto for having dared to insult his brother, throwing himself to hit the Proto. But the Proto with one hand stops the blow and in mockery calls him weak, so he squeezes his hand, causing pain to the bald guy, so the tattooed guy pulls out a gun and shoots the Proto. However, the protagonist with utmost ease stops the bullet with 2 fingers when the bullet was close to his face and tells him that he only needs him as his dog. Then the guy, terrified by what he just did and fearing for his life, prostrates in front of the Proto, agreeing to be his dog. Then the Proto threatens to kill him if he betrays him and causes the guy to pee his pants. Back at the Proto's villa, the Proto tells his man to tell the old man to come for training in 3 days. The next day the Proto was training when he suddenly gets a call and is told that he will be seen in Ju Yungshua. The Proto agrees to go, but looking out of a window he considers that as a coincidence, as he experienced something in his past life in a place that was called the same. In that place the Proto's girlfriend informs him that they break up, leaving the Proto in shock in his past life. So the Proto gets upset for believing that the same thing will happen to him. Changing places, we arrive at a clothing store where Zuer was the Proto's current partner and his apparent best friend, which speaks with disgust of the Proto for believing himself worthy of being with Zuer. Already in the pavilion in Ju Yungshuan, a guy is excited to know that the Proto will come, as he already has him in front of the pavilion, considering him a great guy he wants to talk to. He even asked his father to book there. The protagonist, when entering the pavilion, surprises the girl who was talking, who was earlier complaining about being given the industry, and with fear she reveres him. This shocks a guy, as the girl had not behaved like that with anyone, asking why she respects the prota. Then the girls talk about how he was the one who defeated the tattoo guy the other day, and besides being very strong, he is also the boss now of Ju Yongxuan. Then the guy who was interested in talking to the prota surprised about something he just found out, so they admire how lucky he is, as many would think he was one of the guy's men who went with him. Upon seeing him, they call him and ask to bring him a seat, but the prota in a bad way tells him not to worry, so the guy thinks in his mind that he will play with him. Then Zura calls the brown-haired guy. Upon sitting down, the prota's girlfriend tells him that she and someone else gambled something earlier, so she tells him that he will have to prepare himself. So he protagonist mentions that he was aware. Then Zura, astonished, asks him how he knew. Starting the party, they toast and celebrate a happy birthday to Zura, which she thanks. Then the brown-haired guy says it's time to deliver the gifts. The first one is a blonde guy, supposedly gallant, hands a little box to Zura which contained a small jade stone, which surprises the guys, as it looks like an expensive gift. Even the girls consider that jewel to be valued at hundreds of thousands, so the guy mentions that he wouldn't mind spending up to millions for a beauty like Zura. Then the brown-haired guy's girlfriend asks him when he will give her something like that, to which the guy says when it's her birthday. Then they ask the prota what gift he will give his girlfriend, considering it must be something expensive since she is his girlfriend. Then the prota contemplates his wine glass and says that his gift is something cold, so he thought she would not accept it, handing an envelope to Zura. This causes the girls to consider it a ridiculous gift, whether it is a love letter or money. Then one of the prota's employees arrives and leaves them several bottles of wine. The girl turns out to be the partner of one of his friends, so they would like to invite her to toast with them. But this generates some discomfort in the girlfriend of the brown-haired boy. Then the guy tells the prota not to be quiet, that he has come to a party, so he orders a drink. Then Zura suddenly stands up, to which the brown-haired guy mentions that he will start a show. Then Zura tells the protagonist to break up, that the only reason for them to be boyfriend and girlfriend was because of a bet. And if he finished him first, she lost. But if she after a month finished him first, she won. So she says she is the winner, labeling the prota as a loser nobody, that without her he couldn't be in a place, so they ask him with disgust not to get close to Zura anymore. Zura thanks him for what he experienced, but tells him that they will be nothing but strangers from now on. But then the prota in mockery asks him if he really thinks he won. Then the prota tells Zura very calmly to open his gift. Then Zura, upon opening his gift, thinks that the prota hasn't given up yet, but at that Zura reads the letter in which the prota asked him to finish, thus being that Zura lost the bet. It is then that the prota reveals to Zura that he had come to break up with her in the first place, as he is annoyed that she goes around rubbing her wealth and beauty, things that to him are mere dust. Then the prota tells Zura that she is not at his level, and is not qualified to be his girlfriend. This annoys and exasperates Zura, who reproaches the prota that he is a pauper to tell her that she is not qualified. So the brown-haired guy angrily goes on the attack, but to his misfortune the prota hits him back with great force. Before this, another guy tries to hit the prota, but the prota kicks him away. At that, the prota's dog enters, asking about the scandal. Then the brown-haired guy blames the prota, but the prota gets respectful next to the prota, impressing the brown-haired guy to see that the owner of the pavilion for the way they treat him. Then the prota replies to Zura what he told her, that only because of her he would go in there. So he reveals to everyone that he has full control of the assets of that place. At that, the granddaughter of the old man enters, so the brown guy tries to accuse the prota, but she slaps him, to then bow to the protagonist and say that she is honored to meet him, again impressing the brown-haired guy to see this. Seeing the close relationship and the power that the prota now has, Zura collapses, regretting not having formalized her relationship with him for real. Then the prota stresses to him that she is nothing before him. The next day, a guy tells the prota that he found out that he had broken up with Zura, so he tries to cheer him up by inviting him to play at night, although the prota very subtly turns him down, but the guy keeps insisting, ringing the bell announcing the culmination of classes. Then the prota meets Zura's friend and asks about her, so she informs him that Zura transferred from that school. Then the prota snatches a Buddha notebook from the girl, telling her that he will give her Buddhist scriptures later. Then the girl asks him if he likes those things, to which the prota mentions that only a little. Then the prota's friend hugs the prota and asks him where he wants to go, to which the prota proposes to go to a bar, to which his friend affirms the prota's idea since he had gone to that place before because they have the best wine, and that the guy is called by his girlfriend. So the prota's friend invites him to go by car because he borrowed it especially for that day. So after that, they arrive at the bar. Once being in the bar and drinking wine, a guy comes dressed in a ridiculous way and ridiculous hairstyle, willing to harass a girl who was sitting at a table. It turns out that the guy is the manager of that bar, so they warn the prota not to provoke him, to which the Prota asks him if he really cares that he is the manager of that place. Then the Prota's friend tells him that the sister of that guy is the partner of an influential guy in the city who belongs to the Mo family. The Prota was analyzing the girl they were harassing and noticed that she had a spiritual crystal. Then the bar manager's men stop the girl, to which she asks what they want. Then the guy proposes to take her home because she already drank too much, but the girl refuses with a lot of nerves, but annoyed tells him to let her go. At this, the Prota also goes on the defensive and tells him to let her go. This annoys the manager and asks who dares to bother him in his business, threatening the Prota to kill him and asking the Prota to repeat what he had dared to tell him. Then the Prota arrogantly asks him if he needs him to repeat it. So the guy tells his bully to teach the Prota a lesson for daring to offend him. Then the bully gets ready, so the Prota kicks the bully down with a kick and then goes on to knock down the rest of the ridiculous guy's men one by one. This show causes a great shock in many of the diners, as he ended up defeating all the men, recognizing the Prota as a master. At that, the ridiculous guy starts kicking his knockdown men, so the guy mentions that he won't beat him with his hands. At the threat, the Prota tells him to let go of the girl and then she must prostrate herself before him 3 times. Then he will forgive him. At this arrogance, the ridiculous guy tells him that he will kill him and his family. At that, a bunch of more thugs enter and he orders them to kill the Prota. Answering with arrogance, the ridiculous guy mentions that he wasted the chance of life that he gave him. However, the Prota goes on the counterattack and easily knocks down the ridiculous guy's men, making the guy consider the Prota a monster. But the Prota interrupts him and tells him that he already gave him the chance to live, but he unfortunately didn't want to accept it, looking at him coldly, scaring the guy, making him start a threat, telling him that he will kill him and his family will chase him to death. At that moment, a girl arrives asking what is going on. Before her arrival, the other diners feel the pressure and decide to leave before it gets worse. Then the ridiculous guy tells her that there is a guy who has been bothering him, asking to call Brother Long. The girl says it will not be necessary. She wants to see who is causing problems, but she is cold when she sees that it is the main character and asks if those two are the ones who are bothering him. Then the enraged girl raises her hand and proceeds to slap the ridiculous-looking guy, sending him flying. At that, the ridiculous-looking guy asks his sister why she slapped him. Then the girl walks over very subtly and charmingly asks him why he is in that bar, to which the Prota looks at her coldly, so the other diners wonder who he is and why Chume is so nice. Then the enraged girl calls her brother with much contempt and annoyance to apologize to the Prota. This leaves the ridiculous guy confused. Then his sister tells him that if he doesn't want to die, he'd better kneel down before him and apologize. At his sister's request, the ridiculous guy prostrates before the Prota and begs him to forgive him. What just happened causes a huge surprise and impression on the Prota's friends, who do not believe that a guy like him is kneeling before the Prota. Not satisfied with that, the Prota orders the girl to break the legs of the ridiculous guy to never see his face again, provoking fear in the girl, who nods and states that it was clear to her. Then the Prota takes the girl they were harassing and tells his friend that he has to do something, for which he thanks him for the wine and mentions that that bar is his property. After that, the Prota takes the girl to his villa, and after laying her down, the Prota takes the girl's spirit crystal and starts to cultivate, breaking her kind of barrier, going to a spiritual world. So the Prota mentions his spiritual strength has increased, and thanks to that crystal he increased his cultivation 2 times more. Then the Prota looks at the crystal and mentions that from that point he will begin to consolidate his perpetual green body. Starting with the cultivation, the Prota begins to inhale the aura of the gem, increasing his muscle mass. Even his heart pumps with great force, causing his Kai to circulate with great force throughout his body, as this Kai circulates throughout the bloodstream. In the next morning, the Prota had reached his goal and he could notice how strong he had become, although he is left sad because the crystal became unusable. At that, a scream is heard which causes the Prota to panic. So the Prota notices that the girl he took to his village had woken up. The Prota then goes to the room, finding the girl sitting on the bed, who asks him if he did anything to her. The Prota looks at her like a pervert, but says he only rescued her from a bully, but never touched her. Then the Prota shows the necklace to the girl and tells her that was the price for saving her, so he tells her she is free. He will go to school. Then the upset girl says to give him back his necklace. Insulting him, he tells her not to let her find out who he is. At that moment, the girl's phone starts ringing and the girl recognizes who is calling her, and when she answers, she tells him to go and look for her, because she may have already been sold. The next day, the Prota calls the old man to tell him that he has already finished the cultivation technique, so he asks him to pick her up. Then the old man excitedly mentions that he will go immediately. So once he arrives at the Prota's villa, so the Prota gives him a notebook with the explanation of the technique. So the old man, once he receives the notebook, comments to him that there will be an auction of magic tools in case he wants to go and buy them. so the Proto agrees to go. So the Proto gets in the old man's car and is taken to the auction site together with the old man. But as they arrive early, the old man tells the Proto to enjoy the party. So the Proto agrees to stay, but actually he sits down and has a glass of wine. But at that, the Buddhist girl arrives and recognizes the Proto. But the Proto is struck by the fact that he has a Buddhist notebook again, so he tells her he will give her Buddhist scriptures some other time. Her companion is surprised because the Proto knows what Buddha is, so she asks the Proto what kind of scriptures he has. But the Proto says that he does know, but he is not familiar with that doctrine. So the Buddhist girl's friend tells him not to believe her, that he is just a braggart. But the Proto doesn't mind that comment. However, at that moment a fancy guy arrives and asks the Proto how he got into the villa, wondering if perhaps he did it on the sly. Although the Proto with a smile mentions that someone invited him, then another guy comes up and tells him to answer honestly, belittling the Proto. Then the other guy, the one in the white suit, tells the Proto to beat it because he doesn't have the status to be there. Switching places, one old guy named Lou tells another that his granddaughter is in conflict with someone. Then the old guy tells him that this is how energetic young people are, and he knows it because they were like that. But another old guy mentions that the difference is that they have more fortune than him at his age. And so they continue talking and throwing flowers to one of them, who apparently is one of the most influential officials. So the old long face tells them to let them resolve their differences. Returning to the guys, they look with displeasure at the protagonist. So much was the fuss he had that the manager had to approach to ask what was going on. Then one of the guys tells him that the Proto had snuck in, so he asks him to quickly get rid of him. But while the Proto was drinking his glass of wine, a man from Old Mo comes up to tell him that Mr. Mo was calling him. So the Proto puts down his glass and leaves. A guy sees him surprised and teases him because in the end if he got kicked out of the villa, to which the guy in the white suit mentions that's what happens when you sneak into a place like that. Then the Buddhist girl wonders what kind of relationship he has with the Mo family. Then on the terrace of the villa, Old Mo introduces her to Lai Wentao, who is an old disciple of a certain Chen Fanyu. So the protagonist sits down and the old man mentions that the tools come from Master Chen, but an awkward moment occurs, as neither of the two speak to each other nor look each other in the eyes. At that instant an old man arrives, older than Old Mo and accompanied by two less old men. Then the granddaughter of Old Mo tells the Proto the status of those who just arrived. So the old men greet Old Mo, but they are surprised to see that the granddaughter of Old Mo stood up, but the Proto remains seated. At that comes a bearded guy who with laughter mentions that he hadn't seen the elders in years, causing surprise in Old Mo's granddaughter and exasperation in the old man, who told her that he didn't ask him to go that day. And after Mr. Lai said that his master had authorized him, he proceeds to show him a dragon of some sort of jade, impressing the bearded guy, saying that he wants it for himself. Then Mr. Lai reveals more gadgets and asks the Proto if he will want it, but the Proto, after analyzing them, mentions that they are all made of broken copper. These words irritate Old Man Lai, but produce grace in the guy with the beard, as he didn't think he would meet someone who could say something like this, telling Old Man Mo that among all the old men there he was the worst eye. Then the beard guy mentions that he will buy the 4 items, asking him to open the price. This astonishes the other buyers, to which the beard guy asks if anyone has a problem fighting, generating an uneasy silence. So Old Mo takes the floor and claims that it's not fair to the other buyers, that he can only take a maximum of 2 items, so the Proto tells the old man to let him keep all that junk and spend his money. The Proto's words leave the old men speechless. Then the guy in a mocking way asks Old Mo where did he get such a mind-blowing guy from. At the same time, Old Lai annoyed tells him that his master is someone very respected and his items are extremely powerful. Now he is insulting his master and his work. Then Old Mo believes the Proto and tells the beard guy to keep all the objects, that he doesn't need them. He even surprises the guy and the other old guys for trusting the kid. Then Old Lai tells them that he will pass those insults to the master, and after that he gives a price to the beard guy, so the beard guy takes them all. But the Proto stops them, surprising everyone, and the beard guy asks him what he wants now, to which the Proto says that they are tampering with the master's items to get money out of them. So after annoying everyone present, the Proto shows him that the item was fake, proving that Old Lai was a swindler. Then the old man, annoyed, tells him that he ruined his plan by charging a lightning attack, throws it at the Proto without giving him any scratches, and the Proto mocks him for daring to use such a low-level technique, preparing to show him a real high-level technique. Then the Proto begins to charge a technique that causes the silhouette of a dragon to appear and scare the old man Lai away. With said dragon, the Proto attacks the old man, scaring himself, but before even touching him, the Proto undoes the dragon's attack. After the Proto's demonstration of power, all the elders are silent. Then Old Lai prostrates and bows to the Proto, accepting that the Proto was superior, and that from that moment on he would serve him. So much was that the fear that the Proto generated in the old man, that makes him accept that all the pieces of the auction were of cheap materials. Then the Proto all benevolent tells him that he will let him go without doing anything to him, since he humbled himself in front of him. Then frightened old Lai thanks him and besides declaring himself a faithful servant of him. Then the Proto asks him if he would be the same if he had not destroyed his technique, to which old Lai says yes. After doing what he did, all the elders except for old Mo look at the Proto in wonder. So the guy with the beard asks old Lai to explain. But Lai only replies that he will clean up the whole mess, so the guy with the beard leaves in anger because they dared to offend him. But the Proto tells him that he will have to pay him what he owes him and then asks if they don't have something else, so the other elders call him master, while they bring him a bunch of supposedly magic items. But the Proto was interested in a kind of stone with which you can make good level magic items, so the Proto asks the price, but the old man tells him that he gives it away. Then the Proto tells him that he will be indebted to him. The next day the Buddhist girl calls the Proto and thanks him for the book has advanced knowledge. So the Proto tells her that it was a book he got from his knowledge. Then it is rumored that Wu is in love with the Proto. After the rumors spread, the Proto's friend asks the Proto if he is dating Wu or if he likes her, praising the courage he has in going for a beauty like her. The Proto then tells him to shut up and denies all the questions he had been asked. The Proto mentions that they are not suitable, so his friend tries to encourage him. But the Proto actually knows the girl from his past life and knows that she is not interested in such things. Plus he is an emperor, and they are not on the same level, no matter how powerful his family is. However, Wu comes back to look for the Proto, shocking the rest of the students, seeing that he is back destroying their dreams. Then Wu tells him that since they are not close at all, so he can't accept that book that looks expensive, so he wants to return it. But the Proto says that he doesn't like his gifts back, and since he doesn't like Buddhism, he might as well throw it away. At that, a guy comes across in the middle of the conversation. Quite annoyed, he tells him to stay away from Wu, so the Proto asks him what he wants from her, to which the guy says he is her friend, and the Proto scoffs that it is just that, while Wu hides behind the Proto. So the guy tells him that he and Wu have a better relationship. Then the Proto takes Wu's hand and says it wouldn't be like that if they were lovers, angering the guy and impressing the other students. After this, the Proto runs away with Wu while they are holding hands. Once outside the institute, the Proto apologizes for his childish behavior, that he didn't mean it. Then the Proto charmingly asks him if he wishes it were true. Wu doesn't answer, but blushes. Then the Proto leaves and tells him to keep the book. Then Wu wonders what he wants to tell him. At that, a couple of girls arrive at his house exclaiming that they are tired. So then the girl leaves to buy food and invites the Proto to join them for dinner. At that, the Proto and another sister of the Proto arrive, who claims that she shouldn't be with Wu because he is not at her level. The Proto tells her that he doesn't care about that for him all that is garbage. Then the Proto and his sister discover that their older sister's friend girl was spying on them, to which the girl tried to excuse herself. But she does it very badly, asking the Proto what they want to eat, to which the Proto slams the door and says he doesn't want anything. This upsets the Proto's sister's friend, and even the Proto's younger sister is saddened by the way the Proto took things, but worried because she thinks her brother is meddling where he is not wanted. After this situation, the Proto's older sister arrives with a lot of enthusiasm. She claims that they are having a party and is happy to see her younger sister, asking for the Proto, so she is told that he is in his room. But in a moment of calm, a rumble occurs in the house. The Proto's sister had fallen and dropped all the dishes, scaring her brothers and friends. Then the girls help the Proto's older sister to sit on the couch. Then the Proto wonders who hurt her, because in her past life something similar happened to her. So the Proto pushes the girls aside and starts to analyze his sister. Before that, his sister's friend demands him to leave her, because he is not a doctor. Then the Proto sends them to shut up and asks for the history. So he starts to treat her, and after that he discovers that she had damaged meridians. So the Proto's sister's friend tells him that she started those pains 5 years ago, but she will tell him later. So the Proto sets out to rebuild her meridians, so she will have to increase her level. But her sister tells her that it's no big deal, but her brother scolds her for trying to cultivate with meridians like that, surprising the 3 girls because he has knowledge of that subject. Then the Proto asks him to give her 1 month to be able to help her. Until that, she won't be able to cultivate anymore. Then the friend of the Proto's sister, Exalted, tells him that he is pulling her leg, because not even the masters of celestial medicine have been able to, belittling out of ignorance the Proto's capability. Then his younger sister asks if he knows what he is saying, and with tears in her eyes alleges that it is almost impossible to cure a broken meridian. Even the older sister with a smile says to stop saying impossible, that she will always be smiling, not to worry. But in reality she is tired of looking for a way to heal herself. But not even the celestial medicine elders could help her, so she questions whether her little brother could heal her. So his sister's friend calls him outside and tells him how she broke her meridians. It turns out that the girl comes from a lineage where they train them to be warriors, internal energy users, and she had a majestic talent. And annually her family held martial arts tournaments. But in a match she ran into a guy who far surpassed her, and with 3 blows he defeated her. But with the last blow he broke her meridians. To which the Prota swears to kill the guy named Lin Ji for what he did to his older sister and parents until he is satisfied. Switching places. The bearded guy talks to another guy about the guy who can defeat the Prota, to which the bald guy mentions that he is a disciple of a powerful master. At that the guy arrives with a dramatic entrance. Then the bald guy asks him how he's been. The guy cheerfully replies that he's been fine, that his master asked him to go help him with a matter, asking who is so strong to make him ask for help. The bald guy says he doesn't know for sure, but he knows that the guy proclaimed himself an immortal cultivator. So the bald guy introduces the beard guy to his friend Han Feng, labeling the man with many achievements in martial arts. Though the beard guy doesn't believe it, he introduces himself. So Han mentions he shows him a tiger he had killed with 1 blow, impressing the beard guy, who accepts Han's skills and believes he can defeat the Prota. While they were having dinner, the Prota told his older sister that he has a desire to move out of that house. At that the Prota's proposal, his sister refuses, generating tremendous tension. So his sister tells him that in order to leave that house, he must ask permission from his mother. Before this the Prota agrees, causing a tremendous impression on his sisters, because the guy before reincarnating did not tolerate talking to his parents, preferring death. Then the Prota's sister tries to make him reconsider not to leave, because he could not pay the expenses of living alone, according to her. Then the friend of the Prota's sister is surprised because they don't know about the assets and patrimony that the Prota has in possession of the Prota, so the Prota invites them to live in his villa. So his sisters treat him as a liar, because it was impossible that he could get a house in that area. So the Prota, annoyed, says that he will make them swallow his words. After that the Prota calls his mother. This call turns into tears in the Prota, so the Prota asks his mother's permission to move alone. The next morning, the Prota was around the high school while his classmates speculate that he is in love with Wu. But the Prota was thinking about how much his spiritual power would increase if he had magic crystal, because in the land there is a lot of shortage of Kai, which slows down the Prota's cultivation. But a group of thugs stop the Prota, so the Prota asks them what they want. So the other fellows speculate that they will beat him up, so the guy claims him for dating Wu. The Prota asks him if they have a problem, so the guy proceeds to try to bully him, but the Prota hits him and knocks him down, then fends off the other attackers who tried to attack him, finishing them all off and causing astonishment in the other students. So the guy who sent him to beat him up got angry because of the useless guys he hired. Facing this situation, Wu apologizes for causing him those problems, but the Prota tells him that those trashes are not problems. So he decides to intimidate the bully to talk to the guy who hired him, while the guy hits a wall saying that he will kill him and force him to stop acting so proud. During a class, the Prota receives an invitation letter from the guy who wanted to beat him up to accept a challenge, provoking the Prota with his pride. Then the other guys get scared and the Prota's friend tells him not to accept, because the guy that was a champion of a martial art, who even defeated a dozen people once. But the Prota is excited to fight against that guy, because he has the desire to practice that martial art, underestimating the challenger. At that moment, a female companion of the Prota arrives calling him, so the Prota tells her to leave if she plans to lecture him. However, the girl asks him to refuse, but the Prota teases him, asking if she is afraid that he will do something to her suitor. But the girl, about to cry, says that she is worried about him, because she doesn't want him to get hurt. Then the Prota assumes that guy is harassing his younger sister, so he decides to make him pay. So he tells his sister that he'll be fine. After that, the Taekwondo guy and the other guys were waiting for the Prota, so one of them assumes he won't go to the match. However, the Taekwondo guy claims he will go because he is a skilled guy, but if he runs away he is not worthy to be Wu's partner. After half an hour, all the spectators intuit that the Prota escaped and are impressed that he left. So the guy who sent him to beat him up makes fun of him and Wu for the cowardly boyfriend he chose. Even the Taekwondo challenger assumes that he overexcited them. But then the protagonist arrives accompanied by Wu and his younger sister, impressing all the spectators by the courage of the protagonist and the two great beauties of the institution. He arrived at the designated place for the fight, and the champion's cheerleaders mock the Prota because they think he is crazy for accepting the challenge. The champion mocks the Prota as well and advances towards him and introduces himself as his challenger. The protagonist asks the champion if he was the one who challenged him, but the champion tells him that it wasn't a challenge, just that he was upset and wanted to get it off his chest, words that upset the Prota's younger sister, so she asks Wu if the Prota will be able to win. Back with the champion, He keeps taunting and bragging to the Prota, saying that he will show him the big power gap between them, and warns him that he is lost no matter what he does because their abilities are of completely different dimensions. He goes on to tell him that his master taught him etiquette towards his rivals, but the Prota doesn't deserve it, so the champion starts to make fun of him. Then the Prota interrupts him and asks the champion if all the bullshit he was taught was by his parents or his master. This annoyed the champion and makes him jump towards the protagonist to hit him and throws a kick to the Prota's face. However, the Prota very calmly hits the champion and hits him, knocking him down on the spot. This fact impressed everyone present. However, the annoying champion again launches an attack, this time a kick from above, but the Prota calmly counters the kick with a kick as well, winning the kicking duel and causing the champion to fall. His victory impressed everyone, and the spectators label the Prota as being awesome for winning, while the Prota views the champion with inferiority. The champion starts to remember how he made fun of the protagonist before and how he tried to humiliate him. So now he feels frustrated that he was the one humiliated and also defeated. Then the guy who organized the fight protests to the Prota for being so serious in a friendly fight. Then the Prota questions his stance and asks him if he wants him to beat him up too. Meanwhile, the Prota's sister smiles, relieved that her brother won. So he starts to remember how she worriedly warned him not to accept the challenge and how the Prota made fun of her by asking her if she was afraid he would hurt her suitor. However, her fear lies in hurting him. Back to the present. The Prota's sister tells him that he should not be trusted even though he won. Then the sister remembers that they had bet that if he won she could not scold him or tell him anything else. So the sister reluctantly shuts up and tells him that she will not tell him what to do. But Wu smiles at the protagonist and congratulates him on his victory. The Prota smiles back and leaves, but the Prota's sister is still worried about him. However, the Prota stops and tells his sister that she will no longer be harassed by that champion. But if anyone else bothers her, he asks her to let him know. This shocked the Prota's sister, as she wonders if everything the Prota did was for her. Then Wu tells her that he is envious of her and her relationship with her brother. But the Prota's sister starts to gag with nervousness and tells her that the Prota is nicer to her. Meanwhile, the guy who organized the fight desperately tells a guy that the champion was defeated by him, which stunned the guy, and he wonders where the Prota came from as he defeated the opponents he threw at him. So the guy machines that the champion's master is the one to challenge him and tells his messenger to let the champion's master know what happened. And after that, the guy who challenged the Prota brings the Prota a challenge letter from the champion's master, but the protagonist rejects it. After the Prota's refusal, the lapdog of the one who wants Wu begins to mock and provoke him by calling him a coward, telling him to accept defeat and apologize to those he humiliated. The Prota's partner comes to the Prota's defense, but he starts to humiliate him and tell him that he should not follow the Prota because he is a coward, and then starts to taunt the protagonist. So he stops his partner and tells him not to pay attention to a lapdog. Then the guy tells him to stop being arrogant and starts insulting him and his family again. However, this does upset the Prota, and he slaps the guy, slapping him, breaking a tooth, and starts humiliating him. So the guy asks him how dare he. So he whips his head against the desk and tells him that he obviously dares and asks him why he shouldn't. So the protagonist tells him to beat it. The Prota's partner mocks the guy. Then the Prota starts to remember a very powerful ability, and suddenly his sister arrives and tells the Prota that Wu was beaten. Then he goes full speed, and when he gets to Wu, there she is informing her that her Buddhism book was stolen. Then the Prota charges her and makes Wu nervous. The protagonist takes Wu to the infirmary, and his sister scolds him, saying that he is just taking advantage of her. However, the Prota lowers his stocking and begins to treat his sprain with his cultivation powers, which impresses his sister, who asks him how he did that. But the Prota tells her that he shouldn't make a show out of something so normal, and then asks Wu who did that to him, as the Prota won't leave well enough alone whoever messes with his friends. So Wu tells him it was the ones from the dojo, and notes that that must be an excuse to force him to accept the challenge. So he asks him not to accept it since it's okay. But the protagonist calls Boss Kin and asks him to destroy the dojo that attacked Wu. The attackers arrive at the dojo and report the success of their mission and begin to mock the Prota, saying that he will surely fall into their trap. And others mock the defeated champion Zhao for being too weak. Then one of the masters orders them to shut up and tells them to stop offending his partner and look for something to do. Another teacher replies that Zhao is weak and then proceeds to break a stone table with his hand, and then begins to shout that he will not accept that someone offends his dojo. But a student is thrown out of the window, and behind enters the Prota, introduces himself and wonders who stole Wu's book. Then the attackers begin to bluff, saying that he will not be able to do anything, but he with speed and annoyed hits the guy in the chest, causing him to vomit blood, which leaves all the students in the dojo terrified. But then they receive the order to attack the protagonist all at once. So the Prota gets on guard and jumps towards the students, starting to beat up all of them. With great ease, the Proto gets rid of all the students, which amazed the other students who had not been involved in the fight, which consider that even if the 3 teachers faced, the Proto could not beat him, coming to believe that he was not even a human. So he throws the challenge to the teachers, and the first to fall for the provocation is the bald one, who throws his powerful kick, which scares everyone. But the Proto insults the kick and counters it with a punch, and in the act the Proto breaks the bald teacher's leg. This shocked the long-haired master, as it is not something so possible. Then the black-haired master pleads for diplomacy and tells the Proto that it is not necessary to resort to violence, and asks him to apologize for insulting them. But the Proto refuses due to the fact that they have attacked him. So the black-haired master launches his attack against the Proto, but his kicks go through the Proto, something that amazes the guy because the Proto has a skill of too high a level. So he appears from behind the master and defeats him with one blow. But the long-haired master stands up excitedly and tells him that he hasn't had a worthy opponent in years. So he asks the Proto very arrogantly to entertain him and to be a worthy opponent for him. The protagonist shows his pride and tells the long-haired master that there are truly good masters superior to him, but even he is not worthy to fight him. Then the long-haired master gets upset and tells him that people like him have caused that sport to decline, and tells him that he will show him the power of his martial art. But the Proto doesn't care, so the master goes on the attack, exclaiming to the Proto that he is dead. And when the master was about to connect his powerful hand strike technique, he without any concern uses the technique he had learned, blocking and repelling the long-haired master's attack, which causes the master to slip. And not knowing what happened, he mentally exclaimed that the protagonist is a monster, so the Proto mocks, so the master gets much angrier. So he launches his attack with more momentum, but the Proto blocks them all. But with the last kick of the master, he blocks it with his hand and sends the master flying. Before this, the other students of the dojo decide to leave him and want to learn from the protagonist, but he tells them that they are not worthy, and recovers the Book of Wu. Exciting Wu. The gossip reached the school, where some did not believe that the Proto had beaten everyone in that dojo. But a girl who still excited tells a boy that it is true. He not only defeated the students in the dojo, but also defeated the 3 masters very easily, all because of a book, so he thinks it is something like a love story. Later, a great rumbling of machines could be heard, and some voices of disbelief and amazement exclaim that the dojo is being demolished. This impressed the Proto's sister, who does not know how her brother did, and Wu somewhat annoyed to believe that a certain Mo did it, and they both come to the conclusion that a real man honors his words. The protagonist was in his villa practicing cultivation, which with much effort he had managed to condense, for on Earth the aura is very low according to his words, and he finds it hard to reach a decent level. Following this, he begins to explain how to develop or train the technique called Purple Thunder Palm, and how his body must learn to withstand a high amount of pressure. So by making use of technologies and training, he managed to bring his technique to an advanced level. But already for the next level it will cost him more, as he will already need the power of lightning to be able to develop it. During the day, the protagonist arrives to class, and there everyone talks about him and how he is so strong that he made the most prestigious dojo clothes. But then his friend arrives with a letter from a girl for him, but the Proto sent her to throw it away, so his friend thinks it's because he wants to stay faithful to Wu. While they were walking, they are intersected by a gangster's men, and threatening him with his friend, they convince him to accompany them. But while he was being taken, his worried sister tries to stop them, but the protagonist protects her and tells her that he can take care of those people. Words that annoyed the gangster's men, who vociferate in their minds that they will beat him up. He is taken to a room, into which the guys who are going to beat the Proto enter. They ask him if he was the one who beat up Zhao, but the Proto answered arrogantly, saying that the guy picked a fight with him even though he was weaker, and he just defended himself. That upset the blue coat guy, and he orders his men to kill the Proto. However, the Proto defeats them with utmost ease. Then the blue coat guy takes out a taser and rushes to attack him with it. However, the protagonist very easily stops the taser with one hand, and tells Zhao's father that he wanted to leave him alive, but since he intended to kill, he will go with the same intention. Zhao's father can't believe what happened and tries to run away from the protagonist. However, the protagonist loads a lightning bolt in his palm and throws it at the guy before he runs away from the room. But into the room enters the granddaughter of the old man who gave the villa to the protagonist, who informs him that a guy named Lai was killed by a guy named Zhu. So the protagonist asks what it has to do with him. So the girl tells him that Lai's teacher doesn't know that Lai's killer is Zhu and blames him now for the murder. So the Proto understands that Lai's master wants a formal confrontation against him. So he starts bragging that that old man is not qualified to face him. So the girl denies that this is so, as Lai's master is far superior to his disciple. She calls him a true master with a strange technique, and that he is very close to advance to the next realm. So the Proto is a little attracted to this master. So he asks the girl where the showdown will be, and she tells him in 10 days on a cruise ship, which puzzled the Proto. So the girl tells him it's because there will be many influential people and she wants to use that victory to jump high. So the Proto scoffs at that idea and mentally rants about how many he didn't defeat to become immortal emperor. So he says he will do the same in that world because he can't be humiliated. So the Proto focused on training in 10 days and reach a high level of Kai concentration, and then go to the cruise ship where he would give rise to his encounter. The Proto gets on the cruise ship, and a man from Old Mo tells him that he will be guiding him and will be under his service on the trip, because Old Mo is practicing the cultivation technique that the Proto taught him. Inside the cruise ship was Wu, who steals the glances of several people, and the guy who is suing her wants to try to seduce her. But Wu thinks she saw the Proto passing by, so she exclaims to have seen him, but the guy who is suing her says it is impossible because of the Proto's social class. So the guy sets out to make Wu fall in love with him at some point, and won't allow her and the Proto to fall in love. The cruise ship sets sail and heads out to the open sea. In one part of the cruiser there was a red-haired guy who we will later learn is Old Mo's son. This one complains to the old man next to him that his daughter is not trying to develop her fighting skills. So the old man tells the red-haired guy that she is a prodigy, and that she trains a lot, that they had come because he invited them. Then the red-haired guy brings up the subject that he heard that the Proto healed his father. The old man recognizes that he is talking about the Proto and tells him that he heard that the Proto has a supernatural talent. So the old man's son Mo laughs when he hears about the Proto's ability, because they are divine ability that in that world are not seen and only experienced masters could have them. So they wait to see the confrontation of the Proto with the master Chen, so that the truth is discovered. But then the Proto arrives and impresses the son of Old Mo just with his look, and upon learning that he is the one who will fight against the great master Chen, he looks at the face with the old man and cannot believe he is so young, so they doubt his abilities. Then Mo's son warns him not to fight, but the Proto is arrogant, so Old Mo's son tells him to fight against his friend who is a master, to check if his words are backed up. The bodyguard who accompanied the Proto is impressed because of the courage he has for accepting the challenge. Meanwhile, the old man tells the Proto that he wants to see his skills. In that comes the granddaughter of the Old Mo, greets the Proto and his father. The red-haired man is amazed to see her, but he is amazed to see how she respectfully bows to the Proto. So Mo's granddaughter tells her father everything he did for his family. Then her father worries that she is in love with the Proto, so he waits for his friend Master Son to beat up the Proto. And the red-haired man asks his daughter if she wants to watch the fight of Master Son and him, hoping that she will stop having feelings for the Proto by watching him get beaten. The battle begins and Son wants the Proto to attack him first, but he is arrogant, so Son attacks with his maximum power on the Proto, but the Proto blocks his attacks very easily, which impressed Master Son. So Master Son backs off, not believing that the Proto could stop his attacks. This also amazed the red-haired lord. Then Master Son acknowledges the Proto's strength, but tells him that now he will be serious. So Mo's granddaughter and her father are amazed, but King worries, wondering if he will be able to block it. So the Proto says that his palm can break the heavens, so he uses his lightning palm technique and throws a shock of power at Master Son and sends him flying. This surprises King, his father and the escort to see Master Son lost, who fell on his knees, and the Proto looks at him with superiority. King's father, impressed by the Proto's show of strength, apologizes and pays his respects, as does Master Son, who thanks him for not killing him and tells him that he will be at his service whenever he needs him. The Proto modestly tells him that it is not necessary, and bids them farewell. Then King follows him, and his father hopes that they will strengthen ties so that the Mo family will benefit. Once alone, Master Son apologizes to King's father for disappointing him, but justifies himself by saying that the Proto is so strong that he will be able to reach the level of a master of great power. So King's father tells him not to apologize, that he threw him into that. In the distance, a blonde girl looks at King's father and laughs and labels him as conceited. The Proto and King arrive at the banquet lounge, and King describes each floor of the cruise ship to him. At that, the Proto meets Wu. The guy accompanying her tries to humiliate the Proto, vociferating that he snuck in, but Wu defends him, claiming that he is his guest. The guy doesn't know who he is, and once he introduces himself, he recognizes King and is terrified, although he feels more anger towards the Proto. At that, the blonde girl introduces herself as the manager and invites them to participate in the most exciting game. King tells the Proto that the blonde girl's name is Lena, and that she is someone with unknown background, and no one dares to contradict, telling him that one day a tycoon tried to court her, but he ended up disappearing under mysterious circumstances. The Proto, then interested in the game, follows Lena along with the others, and they are taken to a chamber that was below deck, which surprises King, but makes her wary, while the Proto is nice to Wu, which annoys the guy who wants to romance Wu. Then Lena takes them to a fighting arena, and she exclaims that that is the most exciting game, as it is a game of life and death, and she tells the Prota that if he wants he can participate. The latter scares away the guys the Prota came with. The Prota sees on the tablet the information panel of a master that King tells him that he has damaged his family in many ways while in the combat arena. An old master starts a couple of fights, and King tells the Prota that the old man has been training and now possesses great power. At that, the guy who is trying to woo-woo tells them that his grandfather told him that guys like the old man in the arena are really powerful masters. He has even heard that in the city where they live there is a master of extraordinary abilities. So King knows they are talking about the Prota, although he doesn't say so. While in the fighting arena, the old man is talking to his opponent, but his opponent provokes the old man, calling him a weakling. So the old man angrily goes on the attack, and the bald man throws a kind of energy attack at him. The bald man blocks the old man's punch, and what surprises the old man, the bald man scoffs and tells him that he is weak. So he proceeds to show him his strength, and with one punch throws the old man out of the arena. His disciples complain to the bald man, but the bald man tells them to stop being whiny. So the bald man throws a challenge to another opponent, but warns that he will not have so much mercy. Then, someone insults the bald man, telling him that he does not deserve to be a teacher. So the bald man angrily exclaims to him to get out. At that comes on the scene flying Master Chen, which catches the attention of the Prota. The old man warns the bald man that his arrogance will cause him to lose. King introduces him to the Prota, but the Prota says that flying is no big deal, but it does consume a lot of energy, so he considers that he just wanted to show himself superior. While in the arena, the bald guy was apologizing to Elder Chen, so the elder taunts him by saying that for his good manners he will give him a reward. So he asks him if he would like to have a friendly fight. The bald man was surprised and tells him that his master has told him about him. So as he has just entered the inner force and tells him that he wants him to give him some advice, then the old man agrees to teach him some moves that will make him modest. The fight begins, and the spectators talk about the history involved in this fight, while the bald man attacks with great force, but the old man uses some skills to suppress the bald man's abilities. At this, the old man tells the bald man that he is very inferior, and reminds him that his master defeated several of his disciples, so now he will take revenge, and begins to charge a lot of energy swords. The spectators are surprised by the fight, because it looks like a fight of gods, and someone mentions that the old man Chen exceeded his limit again, while the bald man is terrified to see that the old man had created 33 lightning swords, and has the assumption that if he is hit by those things he will kill him. So the old man throws his first sword, and the bald man uses all the power of his palm to stop the first sword, although in the act he ends up with it badly wounded. So the old man continues to send his lightning swords, which are stopped with great effort by the bald man's blades, and in the end he manages to stop the attacks, but he is forced to retreat, and on his knees he tells the master that he has taught him a great lesson, so he thanks him. At the bald man's response, Master Chen proceeds to make the swords disappear. Master Sun is perplexed by Master Chen's power, considering that he is now in the Tao state, so he believes that the Prota will not be able to confront him, so he anxiously wants to go and warn him. King's father agrees with the idea, but it is too late. Master Chen calls the Prota to the arena. Provoking the Prota, he orders him to go out and let himself be seen. While in the box where the Prota was, Qiwing mentally begs, full of anguish, that the Prota does not decide to go out, because Chen's skills look so strong that no one could resist them. As the master keeps calling out the challenge to the Prota, the bald man mentions not having heard the Prota's name, so he thinks he is just an arrogant rookie who thought he was superior to the master, but upon seeing him he ran away. So the Prota stands up and comes forward to accept the challenge, which surprises Master Chen. The guy courting Wu thinks the Prota is lying, so he proceeds to mock him. Even the onlookers mock the Prota and says he will die. Even Master Chen tells him that he is not impressed at all. At the appearance of the Prota, Master Chen gets upset, telling him that he hopes it's just a joke, so he orders him to call the real Master Qin. So the Prota acts confused and says that he is Qin, so the Prota releases some of his energy and tells him that he is the master he is looking for. Master Chen considers the possibility, so he tells him about the rumors that Master Qin controls the elements, and since he has experience in that kind of techniques, he tells the Prota to show him if he is able to do it. At this, the Prota mocks Master Chen and tells him that he cannot teach him because he is still far inferior to him. Then the spectators react with much annoyance, and Master Chen challenges the Prota to show him that he is not just a braggart, so he throws one of his swords, which scares the Prota's friends, but the Prota continues to humiliate the old man's technique and with one hand stops the sword, which amazes the old man, because only a Tao master can do something like that. So the old man proceeds to send the 30 swords at once, and the Prota with great confidence begins to destroy one by one the swords of Master Chen. Now Master Chen is really surprised, because it is impossible that such a young boy can destroy his technique that has been polished for years. Then the Proto asks the master if he has finished his attack. Now he has the turn to attack. In the stands everyone was astonished. Wu, the guy who overbearing who wants to conquer Wu, can't accept, and even the bald guy can't believe his eyes. Even Master Chen recognizes him as a monstrous master. The bald guy is amazed by the Proto's strength, but according to him, even if the Proto is very strong, he will never be able to defeat Master Chen, because he has even greater lightning control as well as having a killer technique. On Master Chen's side, Master Chen tells the Proto that he is a worthy opponent, and should have the power to beat 90% of the disciples of his age, and tells him that in a few years he would become more powerful, even to beat a couple of families who practice martial arts, so he mocks him for accepting his challenge so soon. The Proto doesn't answer, but he knows that he is far superior to any family. Then the old man raises a bunch of mist which astonishes King's father and Master Sun. Then Master Chen exclaims that this is his true power. However, the Proto does not even flinch and recognizes that it is a water spirit, explaining that in cultivation there are many kinds of spirits, and water spirits are stronger if they are those of the sea, but the one Master Chen uses is from a stream. So the Proto understands the reason for the master's confidence. As the spirit increases the master's power a little, then a huge snake manifests itself, which frightens those close to the Proto, but which causes grace to the bald participant, who says that the Proto's time has come. Then the old man attacks the Proto with the snake, but the Proto very easily cuts it into pieces, which amazed all the spectators, because the Proto just defeated Master Chen. At this, the Proto asks the master if he needs more demonstrations, so the Proto tells Master Chen that he will be his servant and orders him to give him half of his information network. The master accepts, and the Proto tells him that if he had not accepted he would have killed him. Master Sun accepts that Mr. Mo had a good eye for allying with the Proto, while King's father says he still needs experience to deal with the position of the head of the family. The Proto talks with Wu, who was worried about him, but the Proto says it was simple. At that, King arrives and asks the Proto if he needs anything, so the Proto asks him to get him a private boat. So King tells him that his family will take care of it. Then the Proto paddles out to sea looking for a water spirit, and at one point he asks those driving the boat to stop, and the Proto then jumps out of the boat and starts walking through the water. The pilots are surprised and frightened to see the Proto descends as if it were an elevator to the bottom of the ocean, so they wonder if he could really be considered a human or a demon. At the bottom of the sea he finds the trace of the spirit, and discovers that it is under a large coral. So with his hand he breaks it and manages to find the spirit, although he is cautious and acts with caution so that it does not destroy his meridians. So the protagonist begins to cultivate the spirit together, although he knows that it is a risk because he could die. However, he claims that he also obtains an incredible beneficial power, although little by little the protagonist seems to dominate the energy. While on the surface, the two pilots of the Proto's boat had fallen asleep, although they are awakened by the horn of a ship heading towards them, but they already have it far above them. The guy seems to give himself away from the Mo's boat, and lets his partner know, both of whom don't understand what that's all about. However, the guy comments that maybe they are enemies of theirs, but the blonde girl says she doesn't believe and thinks it must be a coincidence. However, the long-haired guy doesn't understand what they are doing in the middle of the sea. Then one of the men of the couple reports the origin of the boat and that a guest of theirs is around. So the blonde girl calms down, as she says that the Mo's are no big deal compared to them, but her husband tells her to leave them for 10 minutes so as not to cause a shipwreck. However, the girl does not accept this and asks her servant to ask them to leave, as it is not a safe area, since apparently it is the area where an ancient snake lives, which is very territorial. So she asks her beloved to start hunting. So they launch a boat and some divers with it. The two are nervous to know if they can hunt that monster, so the blonde girl says that the snake must be asleep according to their studies. Also that her husband had brought an extra force, a gentleman cultivator and a master cultivator who had sworn loyalty to his family. But his wife tells him that it might not be enough, as the snake has lived for over a century. One of the divers emerges from the water and informs them that they have found the snake, so they proceed to launch 3 torpedoes which hit the bottom, and the 2 master growers jump into a small boat to await battle. Then the giant snake emerges from the sea, which excites the blonde's husband, who believes it will raise his reputation in his family. The old master who was in the boat jumps to the attack of the snake. The martial art amazes the husband of the blonde girl, and then the old man tries to stick his sword in the head to it. However, it is so hard-skinned that the old man is repelled, and he understands that he is inferior to that beast. This scares the couple who want to hunt the snake, and the old man asks for help to the gentleman farmer. However, the snake rises above the boat and begins to attack. The gentleman farmer attacks a part of the body. However, it does not do anything, So the snake looks at the knight, which causes the knight to petrify, and after a colosso breaks him into pieces. Seeing that the knight had died, the blonde's husband collapses in terror, unable to believe what has just happened before his eyes, while the old master asked the blonde girl to take a boat and escape. He explains to her that the snake's armor is too strong for him, and tells her that he will give her time to escape. However, she exclaims that she will not let him. Then the old man goes on the attack, and tells her not to worry about him, that he still has tricks, so he will not allow the family of the two of them to perish. But at that instant, the Proto emerges from the sea and starts talking to the snake, saying that he is in a Dao rank, and admires her for faking her hibernation. Then the snake launches into the Proto's attack, while the blonde from the boat looks in amazement at the Proto walking through the sea, and labels him of being a great master. The old man asks the Proto to let him collaborate to take down the snake. However, the Proto tells the old man that this snake is no big deal, and that it is something very trivial. The Proto's words astonish the old man, because that beast is a being that is extremely powerful, which not even the masters themselves can easily deal with, so he does not understand how he could call it something trivial. Then the old man takes advantage and yells at the blonde to escape, so his beloved takes her away, while the Proto is amazed that the snake has reached a semi-deity level in only 100 years. So he gives credit to the way he was cultivating, and the place where he trained, as it was the cause of him achieving that. The snake attacks the Proto, but the Proto using his palm manages to stop the attack and at the same time manages to cause damage to the snake. Seeing this, the old man, the blonde girl and her beloved are surprised. The old man can't even believe it. The snake writhes in pain and tries to coil the Proto. Then the Proto starts to scold her and tells her that she should have trained more, and maybe she would have had a chance, besides telling her that she is no match for him. The Proto gets out of the coiling and jumps at the snake's head, and with his power he extracts a cube containing Yuan energy. This amazes the old man who was on the boat, while the Proto tells the snake that he will show him the right way to use that cube. So the Proto makes the cube increase in size and then throws it at the snake, causing it to bleed and be knocked out momentarily. And when it reacts, it tries to dive into the depths, so the Proto threatens to kill it if it runs away. The guys on the boat are amazed at Qin's humiliating victory over the snake, as he tells the snake that he will take its blood and 3 scales from it as well, and asks if it has a complaint with that. But the snake only dissents in terror. Then Qin, riding on the snake, goes to the boat of those who destroyed his boat, scaring them and making them apologize to him, and begging him not to be angry. However, Qin does not get angry, but only asks them for a vessel that can store 1 liter. Once he gets hold of it, he extracts a liter of blood from the snake and then tears off its scales, causing it great pain when he proceeds to cut it. But for the pain caused, he gives it an aid for its cultivation, which will allow it to be a true dragon, which makes the snake happy. And Qin advises him to leave and not hunt any more humans, that a beast of his characteristics are rare to see in that world. And to the guys on the boat, he asks them for a new boat, for the one they destroyed him, and take it to Linhai. The girl mentions that they have no problem, and Qin is calm for having found a way to fix Yun's meridians. And after a while they arrive at the port of Linhai, where he is received by the cruise ship people. And after handing over what he collected to the granddaughter of the old man, he cured the rest of the men bow to him, surprising the girl on the boat, who is curious about the strength that the Proto has. So the old man mentions that he is a true great master who must be close to the immortal level, but doubts that he is because of his youth, and because there is a huge gap between the two. After that, Qin calls Yun, but she lied to him because she was at an old woman who was trying to cure her meridians. But the old woman is a greedy one who is asking them for things of great value to help her. So Yun's sister scoffs, saying that maybe she is no big deal, angering the old woman. So the man who accompanies them asks her what she wants, and she asks for the He family's lunar cauldron. Yun's sister is surprised that she wants an heirloom that was reportedly gifted to them by an immortal. But the old woman says she'll only take it for 3 years and then return it, since they don't know how to use it, just keep it as an ornament. So the man who accompanies them reluctantly accepts, and the old woman promises to fulfill her deal and cure Yun, taking out a small box and opening it. She concentrates an energy in her hand which she transmits to Yun. This energy caused a great pain to Yun, scaring his sister and I guess his uncle. Even the old woman herself seems surprised by the screams that Yun is making, and when she had the opportunity she throws a pill in his mouth. But Yun screams that it hurts a lot. So her uncle asks the old woman what is happening to her. So the old woman says that it is just an accident, since Yun has a residue of energy that she is expelling, and asks her to hold on. However, Yun's uncle asks for explanations to the old woman, who just says that she may not resist, scaring her uncle and cousin, who collapse. However, a strong blow hits the door that sends her flying, and in the door appears Qin, who orders the old woman to get away from Yun, or he will kill everyone. Yun's uncle reacts with surprise and asks him what he is doing there if no one allowed him to. However, Kin rushes through them at high speed, surprising the old woman, who orders him not to interfere if he doesn't know what he is doing. Then Kin tells her to stay away from Yun, and if he did something to her that will end up killing her, he will kill her and her descendants. So the old woman attacks Kin, but he sends her flying with only his energy, and Kin starts with the treatment. So her sister asks him about her condition, to which Kin annoyingly shuts her up and blames her for not waiting for him. Now Yun is on the verge of death, although he says he will save her. Kin starts with the treatment, as the old woman starts yelling at him, saying that he doesn't know who she is to dare attack her, though Kin just seems to ignore her. So the old woman continues, saying that he won't be able to overcome her medical skills, so he will end up killing Yun. And she tells Yun's uncle that she won't be held responsible if he kills her, so her uncle reacts violently, ordering him to stay away from her and threatening to make him pay if anything happens to Yun. But Yun's sister crosses her uncle's path, puzzling him into holding her responsible for whatever happens, and tells him that the old woman almost killed Yun, and besides he won't be able to stop Kin even if he tries, and tells him that Kin loves Yun, so she trusts him. Plus she looks calmer now, so he assumes that the treatment works. So Yun's uncle calms down, seeing that she really is more relieved. Then the old woman stands up and protests, saying not to hold her responsible for anything, claiming that it's impossible for her to save her. So Yu knows that if she leaves, it will be just to pour the so water on Kin, and also she will take what she had been given. So Kin tells her that he won't let her run away, and will make her pay. This causes Yu to try to warn her how dangerous she is, but the old woman laughs sarcastically and warns Kin to shut his mouth, and prepares to attack Kin for insulting them. But Kin seems to have hit her, so she calls all her followers and tells them what she did to her. So Yu worries, as they are a powerful force, but Kin takes down her men without difficulty and jumps at the old woman. The old woman blocks Kin's blow, but the shockwave lashes out at her men, and although she wanted to remain dominant, in her mind she recognized that Kin was a monster, being incredulous that he was already a great master. Then Kin applies more force on the old woman, bending her. This fact surprises Yun's uncle, who wonders about the identity of the protagonist, and Yu also recognizes that he was not bluffing and really is absurdly strong. The old woman, seeing herself defeated, sticks to intimidation, telling him that she will turn all of China against him, and that if he kills her, he will be haunted for his whole life. So Yu tries to convince him to stop for his own sake, that he humiliated the old woman enough, claiming also that he won't be able to stand before the other great masters. However, Kin doesn't hesitate and goes ready to kill her, so the old woman is frightened, for she had heard that old Mo had found a promising young man, so she has no choice but to resort to bribery, saying she will give him anything. But Kin tells her that she is nothing to him, so he will kill her and destroy the whole pavilion for what she did to Yun. At that, Yun wakes up and tries to call Kin, but he tells her to keep quiet, and Kin insults the old woman, telling her that a bad joke and catching up with the old woman, charring the old woman, surprising Yun's uncle, considering that now the ward will go in revenge against him, wondering what he should do. Then Kin tells Yun to stay still, and tells her that as anyone messes with her, he will kill him, and further tells her that he will now restore her vitality. Once he finishes, he asks Yun to lie down, and proceeds to approach the old woman's men, who beg him to leave them and have mercy, but Kin mercilessly chars them, while they beg him not to kill them. And after that, Kin sends Yun's uncle and sister to leave, that he doesn't want to see them, that he will finish healing Yun. Once outside the chamber, Yun's uncle asks Yu to give him information about Kin, so she tells him who she is descended from. So Yu's uncle is surprised when he hears the name of Kin's uncle, who was expelled from the family. But he doesn't think much of it, since Kin is very superior by the standards of the Kin family, saying that he is very scary. But deep down he is terrified by the strength of him for defeating the old woman, so he knows that he doesn't want to make an enemy of that family. Yu asks his uncle what he will give to Kin if he manages to cure Yu, so he promises that it will be a tomb and he won't say anything about what happened there that day. Although he was really scared of getting caught in the fire of the great masters, as his family couldn't withstand a finger strike from them. But Yu doubts that he can keep the secret, so Yu's uncle says that they will then have news in a few months, so he tells him to seize the time before the great masters start to move towards their revenge. While Kin is treating Yu, she asks him why he didn't wait for him. That old woman almost ended up killing her, so Yu asks him if he saved her, and when did he learn medicine, and he says that when he was a kid he learned from an old man, and she smilingly acknowledges that she was lying to him because when she lies she wags an eyebrow. So Kin thinks that when he was emperor, no one treated him as familiarly as Yu did in only 2 years they have known each other, considering that he has become soft. But Yu scolds him for killing the old woman because now it will cause a big disaster, to which Kin tells him that he shouldn't worry about it now. And Yu tells him that he has just won 7 great masters as enemy, and asks him if he is not afraid, but Kin says no. Then Yu asks him about his Uncle S, if he is not afraid that they will do something to him. So Kin says that he will kill all the wards and kill them before they do anything. So Yu is surprised by his words, thinking that maybe he does believe that he is an immortal. And Kin says that everything will be fine. So he wants to show her and goes to pour the snake's blood into the bathtub with water and then tells Yu to undress and take a bath to finish healing her. But obviously Yu gets very embarrassed. Yu is a shy girl and Kin is a brute who doesn't care about anything and doesn't know how to read the tense atmosphere he just created. He only thinks that he bathed the snake's blood will be enough to cure her, and he should just use his techniques and a little Kai will be enough. And he will be able to repair her meridians. And when leaving the bath he asks her why he is delaying, since he does not mind seeing naked girls for having been an ancient immortal. But Yu is an ordinary girl and very shy. So she yells at him to turn around and not to look at her. Then Kin realizes that he has created an awkward scene because he is now a simple boy and not some kind of deed. Feeling embarrassed and feeling curious, he turns around. Then she finishes undressing and covering herself with a towel. But Kin is impressed and she asks him not to look at her so much. Then Kin tries to calm down and not be seduced by Yu's provocative body since he is an immortal. So he takes her in his arms and takes her to the bathtub, leaving Yu very embarrassed, and she tries to calm herself not to feel something like that. Then he immerses her in the water and tells her to clear her mind, and followed by that, Shuan starts to cure Yu. Meanwhile, her relatives are outside waiting, trying to keep their patience. Then Yu's sister arrives, asking about her, and her uncle says she is undergoing treatment. So the girl thinks the old woman was able to cure her sister. So the sister tells her not really, and tells her that King Chuan is treating her, leaving Yun's sister stunned. This caused great annoyance to Yun's sister, who claims them for allowing it. So she runs to the door and starts banging on it, calling Kin. So her uncle had to intervene, asking her to stop embarrassing herself. So she gets away from her uncle and asks him if he has lost his mind, because King Chuan is a nobody who is not qualified to treat her sister, and crying she exclaims that if anything happens to her sister she will never forgive him. Then Kin comes out of the chamber with a face, and with an annoyed face asks Yun's sister what she wants. So she very annoyed tells him that if anything happens to her sister she will never let him go. But their uncle asks about Yun's situation. So the Prota tells them that he is resting and in 3 days he will get well, impressing his relatives, especially his sister Yu. So Kin asks him to stop the fuss, that his sister needs to rest, and allows them to come in to see her. Then Yu and her uncle manage to perceive that her meridians had been restored, and since they feel her Kai flowing, Yu was amazed because not even the best healer could cure her, making her very curious about Kin's secrets. Although Kin was capable of everything she did on that day, her level is still low and she overdid it, so she must rest. Then Yu asks her if her sister is cured, a question that Kin affirms, but she doesn't believe him because he never cured her before. However, that does not matter to the protagonist, who tells him to be happy because his sister can be a great teacher, but Yu remains suspicious of him until he sees that he really has such a talent. At the port of Linhai, there were some guys saying that they could not face Kin, who was able to beat a renowned master on the cruise. So they have no choice. And from a new ship comes down one of the 8 masters of Haking, named Liu, who has a desire to meet Kin, but since they do not know where to find him, he will take a walk around the city. A different day Kin received a visit from Yu, so while Kin was serving tea, he asks her what she wants. She says she needs a favor. So the Prota asks her what she will give him as payment. Since he was an emperor, he can't accept just anything. Even all his fortune would not reach him. Yu mentions being a good businesswoman and tells Kin that she has information on his mother, which clearly interested Kin. Yu tells him that his mother's group has had some problems, asking if he knows the Zhongnan power hierarchy, to which Kin affirms, and asks if any of those families are attacking his mother, to which Yu says no, but starts to get off topic because of a comment he made. So Kin asks him to get to the point. Yu tells him that although the 3 families are very influential, they rarely make moves, so there are 2 leaders, which Kin knows, causing surprise in Yu. Kin in his mind details that although they are ordinary humans, they have a lot of influence. So she asks Yu if any of them are attacking her mother, but she says she is not entirely convinced, that from what she heard, one of those leaders made a move and wanted to strike a deal with her mother, but since she refused, the guy attacked 4 or 5 companies. The damage is such that it may take years to settle, so the Prota is reassured to learn that they only need like 100 million, so he won't have to fight yet, although he will definitely hunt them down for humiliating his parents in the past life. Then Yu asks him to keep treating Yun, and they will give them the money needed for his mother, and with his backing the leader that won't dare to touch his mother's group. However, Kin refuses, and tells Yu that he will give him 300 million to invest in the Kin family stocks, something that took Yu by surprise. So he asks her what she wants. So she tells him that she ran away from home, which surprised the Prota. So Yu said she only ran away because they wanted to force her to get married, reasons that seem very trivial to Qin. But he asks again what she wants, and advises her to talk to her family about it and work it out. Then Yu tells her that no one wants to listen to her, and for sure when her uncle comes back they will drag her back, so Qin thinks she went to get his help, then asks her if now her family will send her a grandmaster to confront him. She with fright says no, that great masters don't come out of trees. Also, she is not the big deal for them to call a great master either. However, she tells him that if it is possible for the Song family to send someone of her level. So Song finds out that he is her fiancé, which annoys Yu, who yells at the Proto complaining. So Qin puts her in a room, which annoys Yu because he treated her very vilely. At school, there are rumors that Qin's girlfriend is very beautiful, so Qin meets the Buddhist girl and her friend who greet him cheerfully after a long time without seeing him, so he tells them that he was busy. Qin's friend tells him that Liu Yunfen was transferred, so he will no longer bother Wu, but at that he notices that he was interrupting and apologizes. A few hours later, Mo's granddaughter arrives at the school, causing admiration in several men, so she greets Qin when she sees him, causing envy in the rest of the men, as many believe he is dating Wu. Once in the car, Mo's granddaughter apologizes for the disturbance, but tells Qin that there will be a banquet, something that seems to interest him, reassuring Mo's granddaughter. So he informs her that influential families will be there, plus there will be a guest, so Qin asks who it is, so she says his last name is Xiao, so Qin assumes it's Wu's father. That he knew him made quite an impression on Mo's granddaughter, so Qin explains that in his previous life, Wu's father was the third young master in his family, who left them to join Buddhism. He is an ambitious guy and is next in line to become patriarch, so Qin agrees to go to the banquet. Then Mo's surprised granddaughter smiles. When the Mo's arrive, everyone is shocked, and one of the Proto's rivals wonders what he is doing there, as the granddaughter Mo accompanies him on his arm, so his colleagues make fun of him because they see him pale, so he decides not to make a big deal out of it. Qin stayed away from the party and only saw men approaching to talk to Mo's granddaughter, who were asking about her father's health when Xiao Wu arrives, astonishing everyone with her beauty, although they really wanted her father's fortune. But she goes over to talk to Qin upon seeing him. All the men saw him speak so naturally to the two that they began to feel anger and jealousy at the Proto's boldness, and Mo's own granddaughter considers giving up, accepting that Wu is more on Qin's level. But she immediately gets angry and does not want to accept that someone else is with him, especially someone who has no Kai. Then Qin confirms that she is the daughter of the guest Xiao. So he asks her the reason for her attendance, to which she responds that it is karma. These words make the Proto believe that she can become a great cultivator when she manages to overcome her barriers. And at that, Wu's father arrives, causing something of a stir, and for some reason, causes Wu to tremble. Qin notices this, so he puts his hand on Wu's hand and tries to reassure her, saying that he knows she is very tenacious, and tells her not to be affected. So Wu's father sees them talking and annoyed approaches them. But he greets his daughter with a false smile, which makes her tremble. But Qin's hand gives her confidence and she asks if he is Xiao Rujun, surprising her father, and the old man who accompanied her father scolds her for being rude to her father. Wu's father shushes him and tells Wu that he accepts that she hates him and does not expect her to forgive him, but authoritatively tells her that she is now his daughter and must obey him, making a great impression on all the guests. So Qin smilingly accepts that Wu's father knows how to make scenes, but recognizes the strength of his daughter not to bow down to him. She tells him that she accepts that, but did not approach the banquet for him to recognize her, and declares to him that after this one they will be strangers, causing a great shock to Xiao Rujun, raising a great murmuring. So already upset and seeing that Qin is holding his daughter's hand, and asks who he is. So Qin introduces himself, so Rujun asks him if he knows who she is. So Qin tells him yes. Then Rujun says she is his daughter, but the Proto says he doesn't care, as she says she doesn't want to relate to him. Qin's words cause a big murmur among the guests, among whom they wonder if he will be Wu's boyfriend. So Rujun says he doesn't care if he is influential. If he gets in her way he will make him live like a real dog, and threatens to destroy him. So Qin starts to mock them for using his influence to threaten a nobody because his daughter despises him. So he calls Rujun pathetic for making empty threats, causing a big uproar again. Then the accompanying old man gets very angry in a big way and claims him for daring to insult Rujun and starts hurling various insults at him. But Rujun stops him and tells Qin to know his place and train so that one day he will be qualified to face him, and advises him to shut his mouth. So Qin tells him not to overestimate himself, that he can challenge him. Then Wu's father leaves and tells her to do as she wishes, that he will show her that he is not worthy of her. So Wu thanks Qin and he says there is nothing to thank him for, and exclaims to the guests to forget that Shouwen mentions that he came to meet Master Qin, so he asks Mo's granddaughter to introduce him to him. Then she asks him if he really wants to meet him, and he says yes. Then she looks at Qin and says she will introduce him to him, plus he is already at the banquet. This makes the old man and Wu's father start searching, and Rujin heard that he is the most powerful master of Lin Hai, wishing to recruit him. Although he considers him inferior, he thinks he will be useful to them, so he asks Mo's granddaughter again if he is really there. Even the old man says that he does not feel the aura of any great master, so he is filled with pride and believes that Qin does not show himself so as not to be overshadowed by him. So Rujin calls with a shout to the Proto to appear. Then a new murmur rises as everyone was excited to know that Master Qin was among them, and they exclaim to him to show himself. But as he doesn't show himself, Rujin keeps calling him, but the old man tells him to leave him, that he is shameless for making him wait for him. So Qin comes out and asks him if he has any trouble with him. Then the old man sneers and tells him that he cannot impersonate him. So Qin tells him that he is and many are so addressed before him. So the old man challenges him to a combat to prove it to him. And Rujin asks him to be gentle as he charges his aura, but he says he will teach him a lesson by throwing him a palm attack. So Qin covers his arm with lightning, and the old man starts to think that he was telling the truth since he heard that he could use those techniques. Then both of them collide their palms, creating a shockwave, which impresses everyone, especially Rujin, and the old man is thrown backwards, and Rujin starts to sweat as he accepts that he was Master Qin, but wonders how he had that power when he was so young. Qin asks if they need another proof, so he introduces himself as the real Master Qin, and Rujin remembers the words he had told him, and Qinglian Mo bows down and puts himself at his disposal. And Qin thinks no one would challenge Rujin, but with him there the Mo family will come out of the shadows, and with his help no one will bother them. So Qin calls Rujin a good for nothing, making him fall down sitting down, and everyone there is shocked, and Qin leaves with Wu, saying he became a waste of time. And all the guests acknowledge how wonderful Qin is for being able to stand up to Rujin, praising that someone took that guy down a peg. And the old man asks him why he is interested in the guy, if he is already superior. So Rujin asks the old man what he thinks of the Proto. So the old man says he is dangerous, and Rujin considers him a monster for holding the old man back with one hand, and asks him if he would beat him if they face again. And the old man says he will lose if they face each other. So Rujin starts to think that with only 20 years old he became a monster of that level. What will he be in about 10 or 20 years? So he wonders what will be his limit. So the old man tells him not to worry. He is far from the next level. So Rujin is filled with courage and thinks not to let him life easily. If he wants to be with his daughter, he will still have to beat him. Besides, his mother won't accept him, so he thinks of going to ask her for help. And at the premises of Qin's mother's group, one of her administrators tells him that they need 100 million to keep operating, to which she asks him if they sell properties they can get money. And she is surrounded because no one in the city will help them, so they advise her to ask her husband for help, but she refuses. But then another girl enters and says that someone from the Su family has given them 300 million and was a person interested in investing. So they celebrate for being saved, and the girl mentions that the Su family said they came from Qin Chanke. Qin, Wu and Qinglian Mo were already in the car late at night when they were ambushed by a trio of guys, and the old man who accompanied them stopped the car with one hand, smashing it in the front. Fortunately, the protagonist and the girls managed to get out unharmed, so the old man expresses his admiration. So Qin asks him who he was and if the Jew had hired him. But when the old man introduces himself, Qinglian Mo is worried, because he recognizes him as one of the 8 great masters and that he is also very strong. But Qin apologizes as he does not know him, so the guys accompanying the old man criticize the Proto for being arrogant and ignorant. So the old man mentions that he has heard that a generation of promising young men has arisen and recognizes that he is among them. But he expresses pity and between the lines tells him that he will kill him. However, Qin remains arrogant and tells him that it is unfortunate that another great master dies, so the old man accepts that Qin has guts. But he tells the old man that before starting he should show him some of his strength. This initially amuses the old man, but he immediately tells him that he will do worse than kill him for such arrogance. The old man goes on the attack with one of his fists, so Qinglian warns him to be careful, and the men accompanying the old man mock seeing that the Proto doesn't move. But Qin dodges him in the end and counterattacks with a blow that collides with the old man's other fist, leaving the latter surprised by what has just happened. But Qin sends him flying, surprising the old man, as he only considers him a brat and should not be at his level. And this causes Qinglian grace as he believes that the Proto surpasses the old man. And the men accompanying the old man are even more surprised, so the Proto taunts the old man's strength, calling him trash, words that infuriate the attacking trio. The old man angrily attacks the Proto with his best technique, with all the readiness to murder him. Said technique attracts King's attention, but he counterattacks with the technique he learned when he attacked the snake. With this power he sends the old man to fly, surprising Kingsley and Mo, who looks at him with admiring eyes, and leaving the men who accompanied the old man terrified. But the old man stands up and swears that he will kill the hero, but the men try to stop him. But the old man sends the guys flying and begins to charge the energy because he refuses to be humiliated by a child. So he takes out a light ball and Wu yells at the proto not to let him take the blood pill and explains that it is a pill made by an alchemist with the blood of thousands of people, and according, the one who takes it will have the strength of thousands of men. However, the side effect is that the consumer reduces his lifespan, and so the old man increased his power, and the old man yells at Kin that he will kill him, but he mocks the old man for having to resort to that method to defeat him. And the old man says that he will use any method to defeat him, so Kin tells him that he will show him the difference between them by defeating him without a pill, proceeding to charge a lightning technique in his hand, with which he attacks the old man. The attack hits the old man full on, causing him to collapse, and at the same time with much fear he begs Kin to forgive him, leaving the men accompanying the old man surprised. So the old man promises to help him in the future if he wants to defeat the other 7 great masters, and tries to persuade him not to kill an old man who can really help him. But Kin begins to tell him that they are insignificant beings and tells him that he is not afraid of them, nor do they care about the 7 great masters, that the only ones he cares about are his family and friends, and whoever does anything to them he will exterminate them. And he tells the old man that all the self-proclaimed great masters are insects by his side, and throws a lightning bolt at the old man, liquidating his life. Kin's words astonish Kingsley and Mo, so the men who accompanied the old man beg for their lives. But as Kin was arrogant, they refuse to humble themselves and rush to attack the proto, being eliminated on the spot, and the other guy runs away. But Kin shoots a lightning arrow through his head, leaving Kingsley unimpressed, who wishes to know Kin's ultimate power. And by the grace that now Kin can fix cars, note the sarcasm, the car runs again without fail, and Mo asks Kin if he wants to go back to the mansion, but he wants to go to the Zhu residence. So Mo wonders if he eradicates that whole family. At the Zhu residence, the head of the family and his son were talking, and the head of the family is worried about not receiving news. However, the son says they will be fine, because they called a great master. However, the father does not feel safe, and at that comes Kin kicking the door of the entrance, causing great terror. The Zhu's son wonders what happened to the old man, and why Kin is alive. Zhu's men come out to see what happened, and begin to threaten the proto and Mo. But Mo begins to loudly call the Zhu chief to show his face. This generated anger in Zhu's men, who attack Kin. And in the car was Wu doing a kind of Buddhist prayer, while Kin eliminates one by one the Zhu's men, and Mo got scared, because he had never seen him so upset. So Kin calls Zhu again, and it is then that his men, realizing that it was the master Kin, decide to flee from there. But Kin exclaims that he will not let them flee from there, shooting multiple lightning arrows, liquidating all the Zhu men. While Mo is surprised that he is really going to eliminate all that family, then the Zhu chief recognizes that they will not be able to stop him without the help of a great master, so they decide to flee in a secret route. So his son asks for his men and his 2 uncles who are in the mansion. Then the Zhu father says they can do nothing more, and doubts even that they will be saved, leaving his son terrified. But as Kin went on with his massacre, he notices that they are fleeing, and he cannot allow that. So Kin shoots some fire arrows with which he sets the Zhu mansion on fire, and Mo wonders if it is not enough for him to have killed everyone he killed, and from the mansion only cries of pain and despair are heard. But he orders Mo to get in the car, and he drives at full speed chasing the Zhu who had fled, and the son of the Zhu patriarch tells him that he is following them. So Zhu looks in the rearview mirror to realize that the end of Zhu has come. Zhu drives enraged by how inhuman Kin is, but without realizing it he has him in front of him, so it leads him to wonder how he knew his escape route. However, he does not decide to brake because he wants to run him over and take revenge. But Kin with his hand sends the car flying through the skies, and out of the car comes Zhu, plus his son remains trapped. However, Kin was already ahead of him, and Kin begins to claim to him that he could have forgotten him and he would have done the same. But as he did not fail to cross in the middle, he will eliminate them, and from Zhu's body, he draws a drop of blood. And Kin says that with a drop of Zhu's blood he will be able to make a curse with which he will eliminate all his offspring. A cultivation technique that has a great cost, and only those who possess a high level can know it, which makes it unblockable. So all members of the Zhu family will die no matter where they are. Then we see a member of the Zhu who was drinking wine with a lady when he suddenly bursts into flames, being burned. Just like everywhere else, members of the Zhu family were catching on fire. Although Kin doesn't have the full power of when he was an emperor, he can still do those kinds of curses. In the car, Wu asks him why he killed everyone, so he tells him it was because they wanted him dead. To which Wu says that he would have spared the innocents in that conflict, So Qin explains to him that if he just kills the head of the family and spares the rest of the people he cares about would be in danger, as it was obvious that the Zhu would seek revenge. However, Wu thinks he went too far and tells him so. So Qin tells him that he doesn't care, as long as he can protect his family and friends. So Wu asks him what he will do if everyone goes against him and his loved ones, to which he replies that he will kill them all. Those words cause great fright in Kinglian, which skids for a second, and Wu is shocked and meditates on King's words and wonders if he really has the power to eliminate everyone for them. So Qin asks him if he thought he was too ruthless or just scared. So Wu tells him that he was very ruthless. So Qin explains to him that in the cultivator world a little show of flexibility will become your ruin. So he decided to cut every root that can become a tree of revenge. He further adds that now he can become the lord and master of Linhai. A group of men were talking about what happened to the Zhu family and how it had been exterminated in its entirety. And one man mentions that the only one capable of doing such a thing was Master Qin. And in old Mo's mansion, there were two old men meeting with him, begging him to help them make alliance with Qin. So one of the old men tells old Mo that Liu was in the city, but Mo tells them that it's no longer a problem because he and the whole Zhu family had died. Impressed both old men. And some guys in another part of the world were talking about Qin's actions, and one reckons he did something aberrant, and the other says he's talented for having defeated one of the 8 great masters, so it intrigues them because he's so young. So the blue-haired guy is surprised by how monstrous he is, as he didn't know he was 20 years old, and they start thinking about 2 other young up-and-comers who have been carving out a reputation. So the blue-haired one mentions that even with their talent, they are just evil beings, but he decides to just pass a report, as he doesn't want to get involved. Since if he does, he would lose status and resources. Plus he may lose and it would be over for him. And they both laugh as they are very astute and not concentrating on winning or losing, only on maintaining a good image. Meanwhile, Qin was in his mansion taking a bath and criticizing his training so inefficient, and the snake blood only gave him a few levels, although he calms down because he is facing a barrier that is very difficult to break, and that he also had a mini sword with him. And although he is now the Lord of Linhai, he has had to go through the starting path, as he was reborn without his powers, so now he will have to ascend again. And we'll see what happens in the next video. Hit the like button and subscribe if you like it, and if you want the next part, write in the comments the word mad oh yeah. Thanks for watching.